So I want to thank the music team for that wonderful music and Nancy for reading. This is the third week of our 7-week series based on Mark Batterson's Win the Day. Each week is independent, and today we're focusing on Eat the Frog. So what does it mean to eat the frog? Well, it means get the hard stuff out of the way first. Control what you can control and turn the rest over to the divine. And finally, plan your work and work your plan, because consistency is key to winning the day. We have to realize that if we become paralyzed by the past or crippled by the future, we miss the moment of today. This week I want to talk about how we move through our lives so that to enjoy every minute, do what we came here to do and what we're meant to be doing, and let go of all the rest. Imagine what life would be like if we had a routine in our life in which our attitude truly allowed us to enjoy each day. That's what our conversation is about today. But first, the question for the week. What's the one choice that you can make today to eat the frog, to begin well, to plan your days, and to be consistent so as to win the day? One more time. What's the one choice that you can make today to eat the frog, to begin well, to plan your day, and to be consistent so as to win the day? So with a title like Eat the Frog, I suspect some of you might be thinking of Mark Twain's quote. If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. I personally have no intention of eating a live frog. Frog legs perhaps, but not a live frog. What Mark Twain was trying to convey was that sometimes we procrastinate doing things on our to-do list because we assign them some level of discomfort or dread. Or perhaps we believe we might get stymied by the effort it takes to do the task, so we keep putting it off. This week is all about tackling those difficult tasks right away. About eating the frog first thing in the morning, or eating the biggest frog first. And there are numerous reasons that doing that is a fabulous idea. I know I've been guilty of putting a task on my to-do list and rolling it over to the next day and the next day and the next. Often because of fear of speaking with a person, sometimes fear of failure. In reality, if I'm going to fail at something, I might as well fail at it first thing in the morning and know that the rest of my day can only be going uphill from there. And the feeling of elation that comes when we actually do one of those difficult tasks and succeed. Wow, that sense of accomplishment can bolster my mood for the rest of the day. Not to mention how good it feels to have the difficult thing done. Batterson talks a lot in this section about the need for a consistent morning routine. One that includes the one thing that you like least to do and yet feel the best about after you've done it. That's your frog. The habit that is most likely difficult to establish yet has huge benefits. Perhaps for you it's finding quiet time to meditate. Or maybe it's doing some type of exercise to raise your heartbeat. You need to figure out your one thing. Then I invite you to consider this as a daily part of your morning routine. Eat that frog. And it doesn't hurt, as Batterson put it. If you want to win the day, get a small win right out of the gate. In the introduction, I said that one of the things associated with eating the frog is to control what you can control and turn the rest over to the divine. I suspect that most of you are familiar with the form of the Serenity Prayer that was written by an American theologian, Reinhold Niebuhr. Now, Niebuhr's prayer originally asked for courage first, and specifically for changing things that must be changed, not just things that can be changed. Supposedly, the original form of the prayer was this: Father, give us courage to change what must be altered, serenity to accept what cannot be helped, and the insight to know the one from the other. It's commonly quoted now in a different form. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. You know, for centuries, philosophers and gurus have been telling us some form of this serenity prayer in other ways. One of the earliest I found in my research was a statement by Epictetus, who was a Greek Stoic philosopher, born a slave in 50 AD. He lived in Rome until he was banished, and he then went to Nicopolis in northwestern Greece for the rest of his life. His words have the same sentiment as the Serenity Prayer. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. Our opinions are up to us, and our impulses, desires, aversions, in short, whatever is our own doing. Our bodies are not up to us, nor are our possessions, our reputations, or our public offices, or that is, whatever is not our own doing. And the 8th century Indian Buddhist scholar Shankadeva suggested this: if there's a reason when trouble strikes, what reason is there for dejection? And if there is no help for it, what use is there in being glum? The 11th century Jewish philosopher Solomon de Gotterbul wrote this: at the head of all understanding is realizing what is and what cannot be, and the consoling of what is not in our power to change. And in 1695, the philosopher W.W. Bartley provides a Mother Goose form of the Serenity Prayer. It went something like this: for every ailment under the sun, there is a remedy or there is none. If there be one, try to find it. If there be none, never mind it. Imagine if we set those words to music and taught it to our toddlers. Can you imagine how that would change the attitude of people around the world if they truly embraced that little verse? Friedrich Schiller advocated in 1801, blessed is he who has learned to bear what he cannot change, and to give up with dignity what he cannot save. All of this wisdom is echoed by the quote from Mark Batterson's book, and this is the way it goes: we can control when we get up, we can control when we go to bed, and we can control our attitude in between. Don't let what you cannot control keep you from controlling what you can. In a lot of ways, this is the same as changing what must be changed in us and accepting those things we cannot change, because some of the things are just out of our control. Batterson doesn't just mention that part about being wise enough to know the difference. But what he does emphasize here is that our attitude is a crucial point to win the day. Control our attitude all our waking hours. Notice who we're being, and if that person is in alignment with who we want to be and who we see ourselves as. If that person is in alignment with that priceless masterpiece of the divine that we've talked about for the last couple weeks. And live from that place and from that remembering of who you are. It's time to eat the frog so as to live our days from the joy of our being. As I mentioned last week, the obstacles that we encounter are just that. They're obstacles. They don't have to be the enemy. It's a great reminder that our attitude actually dictates for us how our life goes and how we move through the day. And the Serenity Prayer reminds us to accept those things out of our control, those things that we cannot change. I might say accept them and turn them over to the divine. In 10 Ideas That Make a Difference, Ernest Holmes puts it this way: if we can believe that the Spirit within us, God, makes perfect and happy the way before us, we can then enter into conscious union with everything that lives, and we commune with the Spirit in all people and all things. There then develops an intimate relationship to the presence and the power which controls everything. And we know we can trust it. What might it take for us to eat the frog that controls our actions, that controls our attitude from our first waking moment until we lay our head on the pillow at night, so as to develop that intimate relationship with the presence and power which controls everything, knowing that we can trust it? Batterson might say it's consistency in your daily routine. He mentions in his book that consistency beats intensity every time. Remember the Australian yacht team who listened to that tape of them winning the race 2 years, twice a day, every day, listening to themselves win that American Cup, and then actually won with a 42-second margin after losing 132 years in a row. That process of them listening to that tape was all about consistency. In this section of his book, Batterson writes, plan your work and work your plan. Because as he puts it, you can't just pray like it depends on God. You also have to work like it depends on you. The catchphrase that Batterson uses for how to eat the frog is, if you want God to do the super, you have to do the natural. Working our plan is how we do the natural. It's how we have the courage to change the things we can change. Those things that we know need changing, from those small daily habits that might bring us big benefits in playing our own part in the world, to the biggest issues of life like social injustices and social exclusivity. We begin, of course, with doing what it is we know is ours to do, each day, one day at a time. And how do you know what is yours to do? Ask the divine. Create a ritual in which you wake up each morning and give the divine a minute or two or more of your first waking moments. Say a little prayer that you are shown what is yours to do throughout the day. And then throughout the day, listen to that still small voice within you that whispers to you constantly. Make sure that you pay attention to the divine part of you that guides you and nudges you in the direction of love. I think another bit of wisdom on this subject is echoed by the quote for the week, which was in our announcements, but in case you missed it, this is what it said. We take the rhythm of night and day for granted. It's all we've ever known. What if we saw it for what it really is, a gift from God? We get to start over every day. Every day is a new creation. There's a little death when we go to sleep and a little resurrection when we wake up. Each day we get to determine our attitude and how we approach our life. And if you are uncertain if it's courage to change something or serenity to accept it, just ask the divine for the insight to know in that moment what you might do. It only takes a few seconds to breathe and center in that place where God speaks to you as that still small voice within. Dr. Michael Beckwith in 40-Day Mind Fast Soul Feast reminds us of this. God has a gift to give the world as you, beyond what your surface mentality may sometimes see. So when you commit to discovering and expressing your faculty of divine creativity, what emerges is living and expressing from a deeper dimension of your being. Beckwith knows that each of us is capable of expressing from a deeper dimension of our being. It just takes our willingness to discover our own divine creativity, that gift that God gave the world as us. And sometimes that means knowing that deep within us, we know the answers. Nona Brooks in Mysteries wrote this: infinite love is expressing as form. And you and I, as God expressions, are destined to realize God life. That life which is powerful, true, pure, and joyous. Nothing is thrust upon you and me, however. As children of an almighty love, we are free to choose what kind of thoughts we shall think. If we have the plan to be loving and fail to work that plan, fail to act in a loving manner, if we choose something other than love, then we have not done what is ours to do, and we've stymied the miracles which might show up in our lives and the lives of others. We've ignored that life that we are destined to realize, a life which is powerful, true, pure, and joyous. I don't know about you, but I want that powerful, true, pure, and joyous life. I want to choose the thoughts that help me feel alive in love. Are you willing to spend a couple minutes each morning obtaining that infinite love, which is expressing as form, as you, as me? And what about a minute or two in the evening in gratitude for what life brought you that day? What I know is there's always something for which we can be grateful. Wayne Dyer in Manifest Your Destiny wrote this: gratitude is your expression of acknowledging the oneness of the universal energy working in cooperation with your desires. It recognizes that nothing is to be taken for granted. And most important, it is an expression of complete, unconditional love in the form of a thank you to the God force that is in all things. A thank you to the God force that is in all things. So before ending this segment on plan your work and work your plan, I'd be negligent if I didn't mention that eating the frog is bigger than individuals. Once we have our own personal plan in place, it's important that we move beyond our own little world to the more global issues. For example, as a community, we claim to be radically inclusive. So working on our plan most definitely should include some inclusivity and building awareness in ourselves and others around that issue. Eric Butterworth in Spiritual Economics wrote this: when you get yourself centered in the universal flow, you become synchronized with this divine bias for good. Amazing things can and will unfold. Some will call them miracles, but you will accept them as the perfectly natural function of the divine process. I love that part that says we'll be synchronized with that divine bias for good. If we took Batterson's advice and each did our natural with regards to both personal and social issues, amazing things can unfold. Let us become synchronized with that divine bias for good and create miracles of change for ourselves and for our planet. At the end of the section, Batterson gives 3 tricks for eating the frog. The first one is curse the barren fig tree. You might remember in the Bible that Jesus cursed the barren fig tree because it was barren. It wasn't producing any figs. It wasn't doing what it was meant to be doing. And that's what we've been talking about when I talked about us doing the natural. Figure out what your unique gift is to the world and spend your time doing that. Batterson even suggests that the way we do it best is to have a stop doing list so that we can stop using our time in those bad habits that waste our energy and waste our hours that we have of waking time. His second trick is do the math. We only have so many hours in the day, so we have to determine what's important to us. Set your morning routine and make it important to you. Say yes to it. And yes, I know that sometimes when we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to another. So say yes to those things that support your being able to win the day, being able to live each day with peace and joy, and be in joy of your life. And his third trick is establish healthy boundaries. Now, I know sometimes I have trouble with boundaries. It's important for me to remember that renewing my own soul keeps me and my buckets filled up so that I can give to others when they need help. Allow yourself to have a Sabbath, a time each week where you recognize the world does not revolve around you, and it will continue to spin around its orbit no matter what you're doing. Renew your own soul. As Batterson writes, God can keep the planet in its orbit without your help. Thank you very much. So in summary, notice this week what your one thing is to do. Eat the frog, do the hard things first. Create a routine that allows you to thrive. Pray and let God do the rest. Embrace the Serenity Prayer. Control what you can and turn the rest over to the divine. And ask for insight if you can't tell one from the other. And remember that consistency beats intensity. Plan your work and work your plan. Become that gift that God gave the world as you. Express a deeper dimension of who you are. And watch for amazing things to happen. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it today I so easily and willingly make the one choice to eat the frog, to begin well, to plan my day, and to be consistent so as to win the day? Now go eat the frog. That's the challenge for the week. Eat the frog. Live from the Serenity Prayer. Do your part and turn the rest over to God. And be consistent. Create a ritual for yourself each morning so that you know what is yours to do. And be grateful as you lay your head to rest at night. And when a new day arrives, begin the challenge all over again. Let's pray. So we just take a deep, nourishing breath. And we settle into that place of being that gift that God gave to the world as us. Of recognizing that we are each divine expressions, that the God that is love and peace and ease and safety and joy and comfort is exactly who we are as individual expressions of the divine. And what I know to be the truth is that this week, each of us is noticing the plan that we're working on. We're noticing what is ours to do and turning the rest of it over to God. God doesn't need our help, thank you very much. And yet God does expect us to live and to be here thriving and doing what is ours to do. Jesus was not comforted by the barren fig tree. He cursed it. So let us curse those parts of our lives that aren't serving us. Put them on the stop doing list. And know that when we do that, we settle into being all that we've come here to be. I am so grateful for this community. I'm grateful for this philosophy. I'm grateful for this ability to eat the frog. It's from all that gratitude that I release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, because I know the truth. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever you are, God is. And if we don't know the difference between something we cannot change and the things we're meant to change, we can just ask. So it's from all that gratitude that I release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing the truth, that God's already called it good, already called it done. So I can say amen, and together we can affirm it. And so it is.